Hey there, Possum Rob here. Okay, so the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the... What the hell? Hey, you can't do the Indiana Jones one yet. What? Why not? Because I ain't done writing the script yet. What? And what am I reading on the thing? No time to explain. It don't make sense anyway. Okay. I gotta go. Take it easy, all right? Later. What the... Is this gonna be a time travel episode? Hey! Hey, don't worry. This ain't gonna be a thing where we travel through time and like talk to a younger version of myself or... Well, there ain't gonna be no more of that, is what I'm saying. It's just that sometimes when I'm dealing with a writer's block thing on one show, sometimes, usually while I'm in the shower for some reason, a completely different show just jumps into my head. So I hit pause on the other one, and I do the new one. And that usually gets things moving on the other one too. So hopefully that happens here. You know what's killing my soul on that Crystal Skull video? Trying to synopsize that movie. Though I came across an interesting bit of trivia doing the research. At the 20-minute and 35-second mark, if you pause the movie and look in the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll notice that the plot don't make no sense. So time travel. We're not going to spend much time, if any, talking about methods, what you got to do to go through time, and whether or not they're plausible or whatever. We're looking more at the conceptual approach of traveling through time that different TV shows and movies take, mainly around the question of changing things in the past. Can you change things? What can you change? And what does it look like when you do? And in the end, we'll take a look at the movie I think gets it right. And you might be surprised which movie I think nails it. So let's first talk about the big boy on the block, right? Back to the Future. Now let me get this out of the way first. I think Back to the Future is the single greatest trilogy of film ever. If Godfather had ever come out with a third movie, it might be that. But as we all know, they did not. So it's Back to the Future. Now this whole thing revolves around the ability to change things in the past and create an alternate present. I mean, we make a big deal out of 1985A in the second movie, but even if we just focus on the big ones, you got two alternate 1985s created in just the first movie. The one where Marty and his siblings don't exist, and then the one where his parents are successful, but somehow live in the same house. And the other kids are hip young professionals who still live at home, I guess? And George and Lorraine play tennis at like 6 in the morning or something? I mean, I know Marty's clock says it's 10:30 when he wakes up, but everybody's eating breakfast and Dave ain't been to the office yet. So I don't know what the heck is going on in that scene. I try not to think about it too much. And let's be honest, those ain't the only two alternate futures Marty's actions were responsible for in that first movie. He basically invented the skateboard in front of everybody. He played a rock song no one had ever heard before in a crowded auditorium, which was problematic for a number of reasons. But honestly, tearing out that page of the phone book probably changed some stuff. I mean, the way time travel is depicted in Back to the Future, there ain't no restoring the timeline. No matter how careful you are, when you go back to the time you came from, something is going to be different. The thing that makes it even more chaotic is they don't consistently depict what Doc calls the ripple effect, how those changes manifest themselves. Marty disrupts his parents' meeting, and he don't start fading out till a few days later at the dance. Why does it take that long? Marty's efforts to interfere in events to steer his folks back together basically end when he fills in for Marvin with the band, bringing back the music so they can dance and then kiss. He's done with all the Biff stuff before that. But when that kid that looks like that jackass Cameron from Dead Poets Society cuts in on George and Lorraine dancing, it ain't until George comes back and introduces that Yutz to the floor that Marty comes back and his picture goes back to normal. Well, Marty didn't do anything to help that specific situation. George was already changed to the point where he took care of it himself. So why was Marty still disappearing before George whacked Cameron and kissed Lorraine? Well, we know that it's so that we get them kissing and that being the thing that restores Marty. So, okay, I'll give it a pass because I love that scene. It's a great scene. Still, it don't make sense. Now, Back to the Future 2 gets even more chaotic with that stuff. We saw in one that Marty changing the timeline didn't actually threaten his existence for a few days. Ripple effect. Takes a while for changes to propagate through the timeline. But when Biff takes the DeLorean and the book back to 1955 and then comes back to 2015, for one thing, he comes back to the original 2015 somehow and not the alternate one. Though maybe that's the ripple effect happening. The changes have reached the 80s but not the 20-teens yet. They don't say one way or the other. I'll look the other way on that. However, when Biff gets out of the car, he's already starting to disappear the way Marty was doing in the first movie. No, he ain't having no heart attack because time travel is stressful. There's a deleted scene where you see him disappear, presumably because in the new timeline he don't make it to 2015. Go figure. So how's the ripple effect affecting him, a guy from 2015, without affecting 2015? Doc later says that the world around sleeping Jennifer will change when they fix the timeline, so why don't the world of 2015 change around Doc, Marty, and Jennifer when they're in Hilldale? Especially since it already changed 2015 Biff. Gotta reiterate, I love these movies. But come on. We also don't really get an explanation of why Doc and Marty are largely unaffected by all this timeline changing. They go back to the alternate 1985 and it's all new to them, even though they would have lived through all of that evil Biff stuff. If it's because of the time displacement field making them kind of timeline independent, then there's a huge problem when Marty comes back to 1985 in the first movie. Some of you probably already know what I'm going to say. What happened to that Marty McFly? The one who was there in new and improved 1985 up until he presumably also went back in time. From the perspective of the new 1985, he went back in time and then came back not knowing nothing about his own personal history. It's dumb luck he's dating Jennifer in this timeline too. So where's that Marty? Is he dead? Did his mind essentially get wiped and replaced with the original Marty's consciousness? I mean, that's more or less dead, right? Is he tied up in a closet somewhere? I mean, imagine you're George or Lorraine, and one morning during your kid's senior year, he wakes up and no longer remembers his 8th birthday, that trip to New York you took him on, or basically anything about his life up until that day. And it ain't like he lost his memory. He does remember stuff, but it's all crazy stuff about you guys being poor and pathetic and something about your brother being in prison. I mean, he better have fun at the lake with Jennifer this weekend because I have a feeling when he gets back, he's headed to the loony bin. Now, I know some of you is screaming alternate universe right now, and I hear you. But that ain't what's going on in these movies because we always have someone from the prime universe who sees and recognizes the changes. In an alternate universe situation, there wouldn't be no changing. It would just be the way things always would have been in that universe. A big indicator that this ain't what's going on is all the things people have with them to track whether or not they succeeded in fixing stuff. The picture of Marty's siblings, the picture of the tombstone, the fax with "you're fired" on it, that stuff. Quick side note here to recognize the fact that the JITS has a button that not only puts "you're fired" in blinking text on the screen of his Zoom call, but also sends "you're fired" in full-page ASCII art to every fax machine in the guy's house. I gotta know at what point he said, you know what? I'm sick of doing this manually. I need a button. I gotta say, I can't decide if that's terrible or awesome. Anyway, in the first movie, Marty has that picture. His siblings are disappearing from it in birth order, which I'm going to let slide because it serves as a ticking clock for the movie, but they really should be all fading away at the same time. If Marty faded all the way out, there would still be a picture of a well. Who took the picture of the well? George? Lorraine? In the universe where they didn't get married, one of them still took that picture of the well with no one standing next to it. Even better, that picture in 3 of the tombstone. Marty took that picture specifically because it was a tombstone with Doc's name on it. It changes to Clint Eastwood at one point, but when Buford crashes into it and breaks it, the tombstone disappears. But there's still a picture of nothing now. Why? If it was an alternate universe, the picture itself wouldn't exist because there would be no reason to take that picture in the first place. Likewise with the fax. "You're fired" disappears from the fax, but now Jennifer has a blank sheet of paper. The words disappeared because Marty was never fired. But if he was never fired, nothing was printed out. If nothing was printed out, why does Jennifer have a sheet of blank paper at all? This ain't an alternate universe thing. It's a single universe with a single timeline that's changing. Different thing. And before you hit send on that comment down there, yeah, I remember Doc and the chalkboard. Nothing he says contradicts what I'm saying. He clearly illustrates that the alternate 1985 is now the real one, and they have to do something to get the old one back. But none of that necessitates two 1985s existing at the same time. There's always one timeline. Now, the main problem I have with this approach is that if time travel is ever actually invented, we're pretty much going to be up to our asses in time machines at more or less any point in time. Heck, on that day that old Biff gave young Biff the book, there were 4 DeLoreans in Hill Valley. 4! You got the one from the first movie, you got the one old Biff took to give the book to himself, and you got the one Doc and Marty took to undo that, and you got the one that's in the cave from 1885. And that's only after time travel has been proven possible for a grand total of about a day in 1985. Now imagine it's been a thing for 30 years. They'd be all over the place, all throughout history. You'd be able to get an idea if something huge was about to happen just from the number of time machines showing up. Now I'm talking a lot about Back to the Future, but honestly, while it ain't the first movie about time travel by a long shot, it's the one most modern time travel movies based their depiction of time travel on. Like Looper. You got a guy from the past scratching things into his arm, and then the things show up on the future version of that guy's arm. If he did it in the past, then it would have already been scratched on that guy's arm, but if it had been scratched on that guy's arm this whole time, you see what I mean? Time Cop did a similar thing, where the past version of a guy gets cut in a fight, and a scar shows up on the future version's face. And there's other movies that do that too. Other movies avoid the question entirely. Terminator definitely says you can change things. That's the point. But we're always in the past with regards to things that are changing, and so we never see how those changes manifest, really. Maybe some of the more recent ones do that, but honestly, I bailed on that series after the 3rd one. 2 was amazing, and 3 made it obvious it was going to all be downhill from there. Quantum Leap is all about changing things too, but again, we only hear about the changes from Al. I think they addressed why Al is aware of the changes without being changed himself, but I don't remember what the explanation was. It was an 80s sci-fi show, so it probably wasn't terribly well thought out. But I love that show. And that's another finale that while I don't spend the whole thing crying like I do with Babylon 5, when Sam talks to Beth at the end and he tells the story, forget about it. Avengers Endgame sorta implies that you can change things, but it's further implied that that would be pretty catastrophic. So they make a point of making sure that doesn't happen by putting everything back where they got it at the end. Which means re-injecting Jane with the ether, and no telling what happened when Captain America had to take the Soul Stone back to the Red Skull. I bet that was awkward as hell. Oh, hey. Why, you work here now? Primer, which if you ain't seen it, you gotta check it out, is kind of fuzzy on if you can change things, because it doesn't look like anything does, but we might be just seeing the final timeline. It's hard to say. But seriously, this one is really worth a watch. For a movie with a $7,000 budget, that thing is fantastic. So, who does it right? There's a few movies that take this position on time travel, but the one that adds a little something interesting that I ain't seen any other movie do is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Not kidding here, I think they nail it. For one, nothing changes, which is what I think has to happen, right? If you go back in time next week to 1535 and chop down a tree, that tree was chopped down in 1535. Even though you chopping it down may be in your personal future, it's in the universe's past. That's why you know you can't go back and kill your own father before he knocked up your mother. Because it already didn't happen. Or you did, and it turns out that wasn't your real dad or something. In Bill and Ted, they go all through time and get all these people, but it don't change nothing. And the best part is they actually use this to their advantage. When Ted gets the idea to use the time machine to go back before his dad's keys went missing and steal them, and not only that, but do it after they have to give the report, and then leave them where he and Bill can find them in the present. He realizes he's the one who actually stole the keys, which his dad has been looking for the whole movie. He just ain't done it yet. Even better, when they talk to themselves outside the Circle K, it goes exactly the way it went the first time, which indicates that nothing got changed by their traveling because their past selves are exactly where they were in exactly the same situation. It's pretty great. The thing about the clock in San Dimas always running is a little weird, but I get that removes the time machine as a way to nullify the whole ticking clock thing, so it don't bother me. This approach to time travel actually has a name. It's Novikov's self-consistency principle. The definition, according to Wikipedia, the site Scott Simpson calls the home of the C+ term paper, is the assertion that if an event exists that would cause a paradox or any change to the past whatsoever, then the probability of that event is 0. It would thus be impossible to create time paradoxes. So like I said, you didn't kill your father because your father didn't get killed. If you'd done it in the past having already happened, it would already be done, even though you ain't did it yet. Ted's dad's keys were missing for 2 days before Ted stole them. I think Novikov's got the right idea on this time travel thing, and Bill and Ted shows that even if you don't allow changes to the timeline, you can still tell a great time travel story. So there you have it. A look at a couple of different approaches to time travel, and a possum just kind of deciding which one is right. I love a good time travel movie, and it's always a lot of fun talking about the implications of time travel on things. I've had more than a few conversations that went into the wee hours of the morning, and before the end, a whiteboard and 3 colors of yarn were brought into the mix. But hey, we've all been there, right? I'm gonna assume you just went right at that and move on. This has been Possum Rob watching stuff with you. Come back later and we'll watch more stuff. You'll love it. If you enjoyed my little tirade here, reach down and like that thumbs up button so as I know you're just as weird as I am. And while you're down there, join the Weird Ass Possum Club by hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to ring-a-ling that bell so as you get a little goose when a new video drops. Crystal Skull coming up next, promise. So until then, possum friends are awesome friends. Take it easy, alright? Later.